That's interesting. With us, the Nigerian government has commenced 15 naira electronic levy deductions from transactions of 10,000 naira and above made by users of financial technology, fintech, if you may. The levy, called Electronic Money Transfer Levy, EMTL, introduced under the Finance Act of 2020, places a singular and one-off levy of 50 naira on the recipient of any electronic receipt or transfer of 10,000 naira or above. Well, to unpack this, I'm joined by Oluwagunwa Ibirogba, Chairman, Lagos Chapter, Association of Money, Mobile Money and Bank Agent of Nigeria. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning to you too. Very well, thank you. Yeah. Well, talking about this particular levy, I mean, it has finally come to stay.
Sure, it has.
And I'd like you to speak to us. Since it started, what has been the impact, especially maybe for users?
Well, the impact has been widespread, and it's kind of like a ripple effect. And people are reacting. You know, a small increase will always bring out a ripple effect increase. And actually, it's not supposed to be so. But it's something that we all have to adhere to, but we also need to appreciate that the government is doing something proactively. But on the other side, also, we need to look at the fact that they need to bend back a little bit because we are being affected. The cost of transaction is that the cost of living is high, and any small increase actually affects the lower crumbs of the society much more.
Interesting. You know, you're talking about, the government actually has to do this. Why should the government do this?
Well, tax or levy is a form of revenue generation, but it's not a bad thing. But one thing again is that how is it supposed to be done? Is it supposed to be killing? Is it supposed to be...
Is this one killing?
Well, at the lower end, it's indirectly killing. Because right now, that amount, though it's small, but they can actually increase the cap. That means instead of bidding on 10,000, they should make it on like 50,000 and above. Or they can actually look at maybe lowering it out, maybe like 10 naira or 15 naira or 20 naira per thousand, per the 10,000 transaction we are looking at. Because the fintechs will take it, the banks can accommodate a little bit about it. The banks have actually been paying it over time. But now it's coming to the fintechs, which the transactions...
And how much are the banks paying?
Well, they are almost the same amount per mil. But one thing, the issue there is that now we are looking at the volume of transactions. But we also need to look at the number of people in that round. Because on OPay platform already, we have about 50 million. On Money Point, about 33 million. So let's take for instance, 50 naira, one transaction, just one, on 33 million. That's a large sum of money, about 150 million. But we need money. Our cost of is rising, but they could adjust it a little bit, make it slightly lower.
How much of that 50 naira comes to you?
That 50 naira is actually straight to the government.
I asked because you said we need money, so I was wondering.
Yeah, it goes to the government, and it's actually...
You're speaking for the government at this point.
I'm not speaking for them, but basically we need to balance it.
Okay.
But we will also look at the fact that we can ask them, can you increase the cap? That means make it on a higher denomination, 50,000 or 100,000 above. Or you can reduce it to 10 naira or 15 naira.
I get your point. So are you saying that there was no conversation, there was no stakeholder deliberation, nothing of such, no consultation, nothing of such happened before this was pegged at 15 naira? Because this point, I remember when this particular levy was announced, I had conversations with analysts, and they were also saying that when you look at the bank, the volume of transactions they have to deal with, and the volume of transactions these fintechs are also dealing with, they are not the same. And so we would expect that maybe to a very large extent, the government would want to, maybe reduce the amount, like you said, or increase the threshold. But when you talk about increasing the threshold, how much, when we look at the transactions, that sort of go on that platform, do we really have that volume, in terms of, if you say they should increase it, how many 500,000 or 200,000 go through fintechs?
Well, a lot of money goes through fintech. But one thing is that if you want to get a larger crop or a larger coverage, we can reduce it because it's just like a margin and it's a return. So if they bring the cap down to maybe like 20 naira, 10 naira, it will be more sustainable because basically it's still going to come in trunks. But that 50 naira, it's like a big blow. 50 naira on any transaction because it's going to affect a lot of things. How many 50 naira do I have to get? Do I have 50 naira? Even if you walk out on the street, to get 50 naira is an issue. It's going to be a humongous tax. So it's something that the government also needs to look at while we are also trying to adjust in the ways we do things.
What about consumers?
Consumers are going to be at the end of at the final end of it because it's been transferred. Now the transaction you are doing for 100 naira before, you are now going to have to do 150. And some people will, because of the trouble of getting 50 naira, they will say, right, let's just do 200. So who's going to bear it? And that margin of increase is going to also affect, just like it affects in transportation, it affects everywhere. The cost of living is rising. But one thing is that, should it be done? It has always been there. But just now is that when the government has decided to put those that will monitor and ensure its collection. That is what it is. It's been there in the law. We cannot deny that. So that is just what's happening right now. But the EMTL, the electronic levy, yeah, I know it has come to stay.
All right. But apart from the EMTL, what other levies or taxes, do fintechs have to deal with?
Well, there are different taxes. You can personal income tax for those.
Especially the ones that affect consumers. I mean, we, the customers.
There is nothing that, there are so many. So you can't just say, I'm pegging it here, I'm pegging it there. So one thing is taxes.
Because I want to be sure that we're probably being fair to the government. Because if you're doing a business, or if you're doing, government should be able to get some money and all of those things. So I'm asking to be sure, is it the case that fintech is being overburdened with levies and taxes? That's actually the question.
Well, overburdened. When we look at it, we don't say overburdened,
okay,
but they are burdened.
Okay.
So we have to balance it. The government is overburdened. The populace is overburdened. The cost of fuel has gone up. So we are burdened. But we can all come to like a middle or a balanced playing ground, whereby, okay, while we are trying to understand with you, we can also do it a little bit lower, or you increase the threshold. If you want it on 10,000, then kindly bring it down lower, maybe like 10 naira, 20 naira, it's bearable. But 50 naira, that means 50 naira times how many? Per day, per month. That's because when you're looking at somebody that says he's going to do 10 transactions, that's 50 naira times 10 in that line, and that is 500. 10
transactions, that's okay if you do them differently, but if you do it once, it's just one-off.
It's just one-off.
Okay, so the more you do it...
Yes, when they do it, it's actually going to be rubbing off. And the man on the street, or the agent on the street, that 50 naira is a lot of money. That 50 naira you get, it's a lot of money to them. And to us all, because that is actually maybe that little amount that you are trying to, because there is rising cost of papers, there is rising cost of electricity, fuel, so many things are incorporated.
Let me get how this works, because from what you're saying, I'm beginning to wonder, does this affect your profit margin?
It will, if we are, it's no adjustment.
Okay, so that means you have to probably adjust your own, what's it called now? I've forgotten what you call it. What do you call it?
Yeah, charges.
Yes, is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, there is a slight adjustment in charges,
okay,
the cost of the cost. But actually, in the real sense of it, there are no adjustment because CBN has not said adjusting prices and charges. But when you're adding that 15 naira, who bears it? The fintechs can bear it.
Hold on. So I thought that 15 naira will be taken from my money and it does not affect you as the agent or the mobile money operator.
Mm-hmm. It will.
How does it affect you? It's my money that is being taken.
If you are doing a transfer,
okay,
it has to be transferred to you. You are paying that charges.
Yes, I'm paying it, not you.
Yes, it still comes back.
How?
Because one thing is that it's still, you are going to pay the agent is going to remit it. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be remitted. So it's still you that will groan.
Not you.
Yeah, all of us are groaning because whether you like it or not, you are going to transfer that into other cost of living because you say, okay, I'm paying an extra 50 naira. We are in the same market. So we all are affected. Any small increase in price affects everybody around. Because if I say I'm not affected because I'm transferring it to you and I'm already adding the charges, you are going to include that cost in your cost of services.
Well, it doesn't affect it. That's the point I want to make. Maybe in terms of financial inclusion, maybe it affects the financial inclusion policy of the federal government. Maybe, speak to us, does it really affect financial inclusion? Let's end on that in 30 seconds. In 30 seconds. Yeah,
well, indirectly it does, because it's going to affect the number of transactions. It's going to affect the number of transactions means the number of returns. So, and what are you making? 30 naira, 20 naira. Okay, if I'm supposed to make 30 naira in 100 places, now I'm having 30 naira in 20 places. What comes up? My profit drops, my income drops, because people are not willing to do that within that period of time, because maybe the volume has increased. So that's what you look. If you look outside right now, you'll see that transportation also, it's moving, but the numbers have dropped a little bit. So that is how it is. The volume may now reduce a little bit.
But we don't have option. We'll keep making transactions.
We'll keep making transactions.
Exactly. So if it is necessary, we'll do it. We'll pay the 50
and that is why we are also and that's why we are also engaging, and we will also look to the government to ask them that, okay, fine, can you bring down the threshold?
Actually.
Or increase it so that we can, all of us, we are in this together, so we have to drive it together.
If you ask me, I'll say let's reduce the amount.
Let's reduce the amount to like 20 naira.
20 naira
I think that will go a long way, and people will actually hail the government and say, we appreciate you.
Well, it's been nice speaking with you. Oluwagunwa Ibirogba, Chairman, Lagos Chapter, Association of Mobile Money and Bank Agents of Nigeria. Thank you for your time on the show.
Thank you very much.